Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I aspire or ascribe to the servant leadership philosophy. As you enter this profession, you will be asked in some of your methods courses to develop your own teaching philosophy. So, as a teacher leader, an administrator, and now a higher education administrator, I ascribe to, or my philosophy is based on the highest level of leadership or the highest calling of leadership, which is that of a servant leader. So, just a little bit about me professionally, as far as my professional background. I currently serve as the field placement coordinator. I said that here at the College of Ed, as well as the teacher certification officer. But I also enjoy consulting, working as an educational consultant, primarily in the Houston Independent School District, Manor Independent School District in Manor, Texas, and here shortly should be on a more national level and abroad. And so prior to that, I was working on my doctorate and was an administrator in the Austin Independent School District, but served as a college and career liaison in Manor ISD in Manor, Texas. And so prior to that experience in Manor as a college and career liaison, I was an assistant principal in AISD at the Eastside Memorial Global Tech High School at the Johnston campus. So it was a 21st century skills and project-based learning model in Austin, Texas. So I do have a doctorate, an EDD, in higher education administration from the University of Mary Hardin Baylor, a master's in educational administration from Concordia, but I am a middle school teacher by heart and by trade. So I do have a BA in middle grades education and a minor in biology. My passions and hobbies include college and career readiness. That's the basis of my research and my life's work. And really enjoy working with at-risk youth, primarily in urban school districts. I've worked in many capacities in rural school districts to suburban school districts, but really am passionate about serving those that are in poverty and that also have some sort of achievement gap or that are considered dropouts. I'm a founding member for my local church, Fellowship Church, and a community volunteer activist for the Freemanstown Preservation Coalition. And right now we are in sort of a battle with the mayor and council members in the city, Mayor Nice Parker, on a campaign to save 100-year-old bricks in Midtown and Freemanstown in Fourth Ward. But my greatest accomplishment to date has to be she's now 12 actually, my 12-year-old daughter, who is a tinkerer, enjoys building Legos and also playing, she's a gamer as well. So speaking of which, this is her, my daughter Reese. She is a fifth grader in Clear Creek Independent School District. And she's 12. The slide said 11, but this slide presentation, she was 11 when it was created. And so she is now 12 and as of December the 10th. In this upper left-hand corner, this is one of my other kiddos. He is a 2-year-old Shih Tzu. His name is Emperor Puyi, named after the last emperor of China. The newest addition to our family is here in the middle where the pointer, the arrow is. Her name is Olivia. She is a blue heeler mix. And she's royalty, so we call her Lady Olivia or Lady O, and he's Emperor Puyi. In the upper right-hand corner here are my parents, Calvin and Amy Coleman. My mother is deceased and my father is still alive and well. And then this is the campaign I was telling you about. That is my 12-year-old daughter and one of our fellow church members' sons holding this banner or a campaign sign. So part of research, or most researchers start with the problem. And one of the things that we really try to explore, it's almost based on a year's worth of research now from last semester, last February up until this point, was how can we really make this semester, the developing teaching semester, a more rich and robust experience. And so this is one of the things that we really want to try to do, given that this is sort of the middle of the road experience or midpoint in the teacher preparation program. I mean, you've just completed pre-teaching and rotating through, several different districts in, last semester in the fall. And so now here you are sort of in the middle, in the gap between making that transition as a pre-service teacher or a pre-candidate entering into pre-service candidacy and student teaching. And so this is you're in the middle at this point. So we really want to think carefully, thoughtfully, and strategically about how we can make this semester rich and robust. And so that was the problem that we started with. One of the things that we did do for the purpose of research was to think about next steps for a program analysis. So the purpose of the goal, we put together a student advisory group last summer in August in preparation for the fall semester to really engage in a dialogue about what can we do to ensure and make this semester rich and robust for all students that matriculate through this program. And so what we did was I interviewed personally had a focus group and interviewed 7 developing teaching students who had just completed that semester or completed the developing teaching semester. And so it was sort of a mixed group. Cert levels that were represented included 4 through 8 math. There was a 4 through 8 math people or a couple of people there, an EC through 6 generalist, bilingual generalist, 8 to 12 history, special education. So we sort of tried to get a mix of perspectives to talk about and engage in dialogue around that question, that problem. And so what they shared at that time, what seemed to work during this semester being in the middle, was to be put in a school that was close to home, based upon your own personal experience, where you live, where you work. That was a prime location. Also, students felt like that if the cooperating teacher allowed them to tutor students or work with a small group, that helped to enhance the overall experience, to make it a little bit more rich and robust. They also mentioned if the principal, that made a huge impact, if the principal was flexible regarding their times and days. And some of them, one teacher, pre-service teacher or developing teaching student who was going into student teaching at that time, said that he had the unique experience of, since it was the spring, actually helping to monitor the STAR test. So that was a unique experience, but that is varied across campuses and districts. Some districts will not allow student teachers, let alone developing teaching students, to even be on campus during testing. And other districts actually let the developing teaching students and student teachers participate in and engage in the training, participate in the professional development, the training for that. But so that one is going to be contingent upon your district or campus guidelines. What they felt like didn't work was if they were thrown around or didn't really have any interaction with the students, in a regular sort of schedule. If it was not relevant to their degree plan, unfortunately, some students were being put in an elementary school and it wasn't based on their cert level or degree plan. If they got their assignment really late, it sort of stressed them out in order to complete their hours. And if the guidelines were not given ahead of time, as far as what is expected of the campus or what's expected of the developing teaching student observer while they're on campus, if that was not shared with the HR representative who would then give it to the campus principal, then that made a difference. That didn't work if they didn't know what to expect. Some best practices they included or shared were for you personally to take the initiative. We do as well. I have already sent the guidelines to the HR representative and or school. Particularly in HISD, it's a unique situation because we work directly with the campus principal to secure or finalize placements. That is not the case in other districts. In most of the other districts, we work directly with human resources to place students on campuses during this time. And so all the guidelines were shared with not only the school, if it was applicable for that, with the campus principal, but also that principal then would try to share it with the grade level or cooperating teacher or team if that was applicable. But it was also shared with the district reps as well to share with principals and sort of feed it down the rest of that hierarchy. Also, best practices they mentioned were being able to observe a team of teachers versus one teacher. Let me say this: it is not mandatory. It is an option. It is not mandatory during this semester that you be placed in a one-to-one setting with a cooperating teacher. Because you will have to be assigned. It will not be an option. It's non-negotiable for student teaching for you to be paired or coupled with a cooperating teacher, and you get the support of a university supervisor for evaluation purposes. But this semester, they felt like when they were assigned to a team of teachers or a grade level, they were able to see a variety. That's the next bullet, the third bullet. They were able to see a variety. It gave them that ability to see a variety of teaching methods and styles and not being sort of locked into one teaching methodology. The other thing they suggested is that you really want to build a relationship with your teacher or teachers, the grade level team, or campus, colleagues, staff. Is very important. Relationships are key in any setting. And so especially as an observer, you have an opportunity to build a relationship to see if this is where you would like to student teach and stay for another year beyond this observation experience. And so this sort of gives you a sneak peek and an opportunity that other teacher preparation programs don't give their students, that extra added semester to build those relationships with this, which is so crucial and key when trying to get a job and get hired. And it's extremely competitive depending upon your certification area. Developing teaching placement details. So I have been receiving several emails from students with respect to their placement being finalized with our with their partner district, with our partner district. And so in the memo that was sent to you, consequently in the memo that was sent on January the 7th, it said that final placement information would be received no later than Monday, January 26th, via mail merge basically an email that you will receive from me with this information, these bulleted items here that you see on this particular slide. I do want to say I should have corrected that because it's actually by Monday, not on or before, but by Monday, is when I'm going to send the mail merge. On Monday is when I'm going to send the mail merge, because districts have been given until Thursday, January the 22nd, was their deadline to finalize any outstanding placement information. And so that means that I would be prepared to send you the information that we have from your district or campus at this point on Monday, January the 26th. So what you can expect to see in that mail merge or in that email is information with your name. That's the first item. Your certification level, whether you're EC through 6 generalist, EC through 6 bilingual generalist, whatever your cert level is, 4 through 8 math, science, those different content areas. It should include a finalized campus name, but in some cases, it might actually say even on the 22nd, I might not have HISD. And let me say this. So it might say to be determined because the district or the campus has not finalized information by the deadline we gave them. So normally what happens is student teaching placements take precedence. And so we just sent student teachers out into the field on Tuesday, January the 20th. And so that's why we extended the deadline for developing teaching placements. So particularly in HISD, I know for a fact it might say TBD on several campuses, because we work directly with campus principals to finalize this information. In most of our other partner districts, we actually work directly with the reps. So because HISD is so large, the university has to work with the campus to secure placements, and that's not the case for student teaching. And for pre-teaching placements, we work with HR in most other districts. And so if by chance you do see TBD, it's because we don't have information, which means that will possibly delay your target start date. And I'll talk about that toward the end, but that was also in the memo. We're shooting for the week of February the 5th, that is a Thursday, February the 5th to May 7th. And so if your finalized campus information is not there, if it says TBD, then you can expect a slight delay. It's normally it will not be more than 2 to 3 weeks beyond that target date. We also already allot during this semester, we give some extra time, some sort of allotted, extra, in some cases about 2 weeks additional time for you to be able to complete because of the lag and the delay in getting some of our districts to finalize this campus information, because we have to work with the campus in lieu of HR. And so if that is the case, like I said, it will not be more than a 2 to 3 week lag or delay, and that time has already been allotted for the semester for you to be able to complete your 80 hours. In the event that you do have a delay, we will, on a case-by-case basis, I will extend your deadline beyond the 7th. We can actually go up to the 15th of May. And so we're going to be flexible. Flexibility is the name of the game with respect to education. And so if it does say TBD, that will be the case. That's where we are. Your first choice district will also be represented. This was based on the application that you submitted online during your pre-teaching semester, last semester. And so you will see the contact name. It's going to vary according to the district that you chose, particularly in Sci-Fair, Spring and Spring Branch. Sometimes the reps will have their contact information because they're trying to make sure that you are clear prior to finalizing the placement. And so in some cases, you could see an HR rep's name as a contact name if you are in Sci-Fair, Spring, or Spring Branch. particularly in cases of in districts like A-Leaf, HISD, and Pasadena, you could see the principal or their designee as a contact name. It will have a cooperating teacher's name if applicable, a grade level contact name like the chair or the team leader for that grade level, or in some cases middle school and high school typically is a cluster or a team of teachers on a grade level, and so you will have a contact name if you're not assigned to a cooperating teacher. Remember, during this semester for developing teaching, it is not necessary for you to be assigned to a cooperating teacher, which is why that contact is important, because it could vary according to the district that you chose. You're going to also see the second to the last bullet will be a contact's email address, or if it's the cooperating teacher, their email address, or like I said, that campus or grade level chair's contact email address or information. Again, last bullet, our target date for most of the districts is to begin the week of February the 5th. That's a Thursday, and we will end on Thursday, May the 7th. But again, we do account for at least a 2 to 3 week window if there is a lag due to background check clearance or some campuses or districts not finalizing that information by the university's deadline. And so, again, our target is the week of February the 5th, but we are flexible and have allotted, and accounted for some time, like a 2 week window for you to begin in this placement. As far as the background check procedures, I kind of broke this up. And so the deadline for all districts' background check procedures or clearance is we want you to be clear prior to reporting to your campus, reporting to that final placement. And so the deadline that you probably saw in the memo you received on January the 7th was January the 20th. That's the same day the student teacher started. But because we had to extend the deadline for districts to finalize your placement, we then extended the deadline for you to make sure that you are officially clear by the 29th. You will not be able to observe in your school district at the campus without being clear, without completing this background check clearance process. And so I want to make sure that you understand this is extremely important as far as clearance from the district's perspective, and not being able to observe on a campus if you have not completed this process. So in Aldine, this process is taken care of at schools. And so when you arrive, the first day, your target date we're shooting for in Aldine and all districts is that Thursday. When you arrive, you're going to report to the front office. And so you will need to make sure, if you are observing in Aldine, that you bring your UH badge, a Texas ID, or a driver's license, because that background check is low level. It happens with a Raptor system there on site at the campus. If you are observing an A-Leave, you should have received a forwarded email from Mr. Luis Olivas that I sent you. I just forwarded directly. He sent it to me, and I forwarded it to anyone who was observing an A-Leave. It's a criminal history check form, a CHC form. You need to fill it out and email it back to him. So you can fill it out and then scan it, or take a picture of it on your phone and email it to him directly. If you are observing a Lamar consolidated, you need to complete a volunteer application. I sent the email for that directly from Monica Moody. Pasadena is very unique, which is why more than likely, if you are observing in this particular district, your mail merge will say, the campus information will say to be determined, and it will have Mike Gencarelli's contact name and information, because Their process for background check clearance is completing a substitute application. So you should have gotten an email about attending a student teacher observer or a student teacher academy. On January the 29th, there is the address from 9 until 11. It is mandatory that if you're planning on observing in Pasadena ISD this semester, then you have to attend this professional development or observer academy to receive your final placement from Mr. Gencarelli. So he is not going to finalize your placement if you do not attend this special session for clearance. And so you complete a substitute application to get fingerprinted, and he will walk you through what that looks like. Their district is a little bit unique and different. In Spring ISD, you should have received a forwarded email from Mr. Neil Bonavita from me to, from him via me. And so it's a VIPS application that you must complete. And so same thing, you would want to complete it in its entirety, scan it or take a picture of it and email it back to the person, him directly, or the name that is listed for you to send it back to directly. Spring Branch is an online process, and so you need to submit that background check online. You can click on that URL address to get directly to that link and just follow the procedures or the steps online. In larger districts that we place students for this semester, like Cy-Fair, Fort Bend, and Houston ISD, these primarily take place online. So smaller districts have either a hard, some sort of paper copy or an electronic copy in this case, but an actual form. And in larger districts, the process is online because they are so large and so vast and serve so many students and have more teachers than smaller districts. And so for Cy-Fair ISD, you need to visit their online applicant system. I am going to consequently have to send anyone who's observing in Cy-Fair a university standard letter that you will need to upload when you complete the application online. And so as soon as I make this presentation available online, Cy-Fair observers will be receiving a separate university letter. And so you just need to upload, it will make sense when you complete the observation request form, and then you have to upload the actual university letter with that document for it to be complete. And so this process is a 3 to 5 day process, and so you'll have more than enough time when I'm going to be sending that tomorrow, and so you'll have enough time to get that done by the 29th, or even prior to starting on February the 5th. So if it doesn't come back, you will have enough time in Cy-Fair to get it done before the 5th, probably not the 29th because of a 3 to 5 day business turnaround time. Fort Bend ISD is also an online process, and so you need to follow those 5 steps. And if you have elected to observe in HISD, we're working directly with the principals to place you, but the application process or background check process is an online application form. And so those are the instructions or the link to complete that form. Again, it is imperative, it's important to note that you must be clear prior to stepping foot on a campus in these districts. And so you will not be permitted to observe if you are not clear and have not followed the procedures or steps. And so just be mindful, again, that we've allotted enough time for a 2-week window for you to have enough time to observe and get your 80 hours in and to take care of this. That 29th is a target deadline, And so in some districts, we realize, especially like Cy-Fair, that it could be a little bit longer than that. But as long as you, get it, you have to get it done before you start observing. What to do if you are late? If you're going to be more than 15 minutes late, um, you really need to email, and I'm going to require that you email your contact on campus, whether you've been assigned to a cooperating teacher or a grade level or the campus itself. You should have a point of contact, and that is the person that you need to communicate any tardies or absences to. I would ask that you CC me on any correspondence, any communication with this person if you are going to be more than 15 minutes late or if you're absent. I'll talk about that, the other formal documentation you need to have. This is part of professional communication. When you are teaching in the real world, if you're going to be late, you do have to communicate and either call or text your principal to let them know that you're running late. Students are depending upon you in some cases. If you're secondary, if you have a planning period, first period, you still have to report any instances of running late because of the students that you will be serving, and also colleagues who are depending upon you. So it behooves you to ensure that you communicate. And so if, again, 5 minutes is not significant, but if it's more than 15, if you're running 15 minutes or more, then you need to email your contact person, CT, grade level chair, the principal, whoever is your contact on campus. You need to email them and CC me. If you're going to be absent, you must have formal documentation, a doctor's note, an excuse via email to me as to why you missed a day. I'm not talking about absences as a result of being delayed to start, but if you are in the field and you've developed a routine and you have a set schedule with your campus, if you are going to be absent or know you're going to be absent ahead of time, you want to make sure you notify me via email. Any missing time, if you are not able to complete the 80 hours due to excessive absences, then that will carry over into Student Teaching 1. On top of your schedule, completing methods courses, teaching schedule for student teaching, you will be expected to make up any missing hours from developing teaching due to excessive absences. What to do if your cooperating teacher or grade level or campus does not meet your expectation. Just kind of reiterate or refer them back to your guidelines. So you should have received a copy that was and a log that was attached on the January 7th memo that gives you some guidelines. These guidelines have already been shared with our district reps and HR, who then share that information with principals. In HISD specifically, because we work directly with the principals to place you if you're in HISD, they received the sample letter, the guidelines, explaining what this semester looks like and what to expect of you and what they need to, how they can support you while on campus. And so if you need help, if you run into a problem because you don't have a supervisor or anyone assigned, but if you do run into any problems trying to communicate this, or you feel like you're being taken advantage of and it's not meeting your expectation, then we definitely want to hear from you. Please feel free to email me because we do have an agreement with schools to work within the guidelines that we set as the university for this experience. If no one knows that you're supposed to be there, please don't panic. You can email me. Specifically in HISD, principals are extremely busy as a former administrator. And so if I've confirmed with them a month ago and you show up on February the 5th and they are not aware that you're supposed to be there, you can just, I'll go back through emails to make sure they know, yes, you did confirm this person, and you said it was okay for them to be assigned to your campus, and that they are going to be free to work out the details whether or not they assign you to a cooperating teacher. Sometimes it's just a matter of trying to jog their memory or recalling an email. Principals are extremely busy, and so sometimes going from principals meetings and being responsible for an entire campus, things get lost in translation, or they forget. So we just ask you to be patient and email me directly so that we can resolve the situation. Let's take a look at the sample letter. So this is the sample letter that was sent to principals on your behalf, that was formally sent to HR reps, who then shared with principals. That's usually the chain of command in most districts. But in districts like HISD, this was shared directly with principals. And so you can see the opening, our first bullet just is sort of thanking them for agreeing to host students in previous semesters and looking forward to a continued partnership. And so this sort of outlines the developing teaching semester. What's important to note is what's in red in the last bullet. So we're asking that students be at the campus on Thursdays and Fridays for 5 hours at a time, 10 hours a week, for a total of 80 hours of observation. So you're to work with the principal or their designee, whether that, or a cooperating teacher, regarding an AM or PM schedule that works for the campus. We want it to work for everybody, but principals or the cooperating teacher are going to use their discretion based upon what their schedule is like for the students that they serve on that campus. And so we ask you to be flexible. You should not have classes if you're in a pure developing teaching cohort, meaning you didn't take any classes out of course sequence and you're following your degree plan. We did try to sort of set the schedule up where you're in class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you have Thursdays and Fridays should be dedicated for field time. So even though you're not in class, you're still in class, but you're in the field. And so I would venture to say that field time is equally as important, if not more important, as what you're learning in theory and content in your methods courses. And so Thursdays and Fridays, even though you're not physically in class, you're still in class. You're just in class in the real world, out in the field. And so we want you to be flexible in terms of working with campuses. I will talk about petitioning if you're not in, if your schedule does not permit and you're in class on a Thursday or a Friday. We'll talk about what that looks like. Some of you all have even emailed already to let me know that your schedule is not conducive to you observing on Thursdays and Fridays. And I talked about filling out a petition, but I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end. This is the sample letter continued. So we also mentioned the guidelines. You got these guidelines attached for the January 7th memo, along with the log. And so we mention the guidelines and also give them a copy of the guidelines so that they can see what your experience should look like. It talks about the activities that we want you to participate in or partake in. So the other item to note that's important in red is the target start date to begin as early as Thursday, February 5th and stay until the week ending May 7th. I'd also put in all caps, you should take one spring break. You're either going to be taking your university spring break or the district spring break, but one spring break. And so I know we mentioned this with student teachers during orientation, a face-to-face orientation. And so I want to make sure we're clear that if the districts that you've selected to observe and complete your observation in, if their spring break does not coincide with the university's spring break, you need to take one. You don't take two, in other words. And so we also expect for you to follow any spring testing guidelines for the district or that campus. In some cases, some schools are flexible in that they allow. I talked to you a little bit about in the beginning with the one student that we had in this focus group who mentioned that he was able to participate in STAR testing during his developing teaching semester. That's a unique experience. Some campuses will allow student teachers and observers in developing teaching students to serve as hallway monitors, restroom monitors during testing. Some will not allow student teachers or observers to be on campus at all for confidentiality and testing compliance issues. And so we are going to follow whatever the guidelines in that district are, or whatever the campus principal designates those guidelines are. And so that usually comes from the district anyway. And so if in some cases, some people might be able to participate in that spring testing and, experience, and others may not. So whatever, we're going to be flexible in terms of whatever that is, depending upon the district that you selected. And so we let them know that once they approve, we would let the student know. They have been given an extension to finalize by January the 22nd. And we have said that we would let you know about that finalized placement by on Monday the 26th. While you are on campus, you should be engaged in activities 50% or more of the time that look like these 7 items. And so you could be observing different teachers, students learn, assisting with a whole or small group lesson, providing students with feedback. So the majority of the time, or the bulk of the time, while on campus should look like you engaged in the following activities. 35% or less of the time that you're on campus, you should be engaged in these 5 activities. And then you should have also reviewed this. You got this attachment in your January 7th memo. 15% or less of the time is expected for you to be doing these 5 things. And so these were also shared in this sample letter to principals as well as to HR representatives to share with their principals about what those activities look like in the developing teaching semester, so we can ensure you have a very rich and robust experience. And so if you feel like at any point in the semester it's not sort of broken down in this capacity, you want to go back to this and kind of reiterate that. And if you need help, or if you find yourself doing things that are more on the 15% or less of the time side, please email me and let me know. It might just warrant that I engage in a conversation to clarify expectations while you're on campus. But please be mindful that you are functioning in the capacity of a teaching assistant or a teacher's aide or a paraprofessional, so to speak. Again, guidelines continued. Just to let them know, you're not a certified teacher yet, so you should not be working with students without a cooperating teacher or someone being in the room. If you feel like you're being left alone for long periods of time or being taken advantage of, then they're out of compliance because you're not a certified teacher. You know, God forbid a fight or anything or something breaks out in the classroom and the teacher is not there. If anything happens, you know, they're negligible, they're legally responsible. And so we do let the principals and HR reps know you're not a certified teacher, and that you should not be left alone without a cooperating teacher or the teacher of record being present. Here is an example again of the log. This was also included or attached in your January 7th memo. And so, you know, you want to make sure you put your name, email address. Spring 2015 is the semester, or developing teaching, spring 2015. The date you're there, preferably, you know, in most cases it's going to be on a Thursday or a Friday. Your starting, ending times, you know, and a description of the activity you're engaged in from that guideline list. And someone, I highlighted it in blue because someone needs to make sure they sign it. You need to make sure when you turn your log in, it has signatures. I would encourage you to make multiple copies of this log, or to take a picture of it just in case you lose it or something happens. You know, you have an extra copy. I don't mind emailing you additional copies, but I'm going to ask you and treat you as a professional, and tell you that you need to make sure that you keep track of your own log, and that you make sure you document accordingly, and that someone signs it and you have a signature. So your developing teaching log is due on or before May 7th in Farish Hall, room 122, and you must have a minimum of 80 hours log with a supervisor's signature. In some cases, we will extend this time, or for this due date, on a case-by-case basis for districts where you are awaiting clearance, or because of a delay in finalizing your placement. Specifically in HISD, this might be the case because of having to communicate directly with principals to secure a placement. And so, again, like I said, we do have a window, a week or two, due to any lags or delays, but you all are brilliant, talented. Everybody's going to meet the deadline in terms of doing what they need to do to get clearance. And if it's on the district or that campus, that's a different story. But we're just asking that you do your part by ensuring you're clear. And I will work with the district if there is a delay, or the campus if there is a delay, to get you started so that you can have a rich and a robust experience this semester. So as far as petitions, I said that I would mention this. If for some reason you have a schedule conflict, if Thursdays and Fridays is a problem, there are petitions available for you to pick up in Farish Hall in 160. And so you just simply fill it out. You're petitioning, but due to a scheduling conflict, you know, class or whatever the issue is, not work, but you have a class conflict, a scheduling conflict where you are not able to report to that campus on a Thursday or a Friday. So you must email this formal request, or put it in writing basically. So you're going to pick up this petition, and then I'm going to follow up with you. Some people have already emailed petition or request and have completed a petition and filled it out. It was put in my mailbox in 160. I've not processed petitions yet because we're still finalizing. So after tomorrow, or I'm actually recording today on the 21st again. So after January the 22nd, when districts finalize placements, then I will begin to process petitions. So you want to allow for some time. If you've already completed that petition, fine. But if you already know that Thursdays and Fridays are going to be an issue due to a scheduling conflict, they're granted Approvals, disapprovals will be granted on a first come, first served basis. I just double check your cohort schedule. For the most part, I don't disapprove a scheduling conflict. If you do have class on a day when you're expected to be in the field on a Thursday and Friday, and your schedule does not permit, the majority of those petitions are approved.